You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back to our Total Wellness Tuesday show, where we're going to be going over the right and wrong way to enjoy a cheat meal. And believe it or not, there really is a right and wrong way. So I'm excited to share this with you today. We've been using cheat meals, and I'll explain what that is in just one moment, in both of my practices, whether it's the body transformation practice. So a lot of people don't know, but we've had a personal training studio and nutrition center, essentially. We do personal training and nutrition there. I guess that's the easiest way to say that. In Boston for 13 years or so now. And then the functional medicine practice has been around for about 8 years. So over that time, we've had the opportunity and really the blessing to be able to work with over 250,000 one-on-one client appointments, all one-on-one, and really be able to see all of that data. So we've tried everything from like every other day cheats to once a week cheats to, I'm going to go through all of that today. And what we found is that some things work better than others. Some work better for some people. And what I want to do is kind of cut through all like the theory and the clutter and just give you like what really works in the real world and for who. So I'm going to do that from a wellness perspective, meaning like trying to get your body well, and then also from a weight loss body transformation perspective. And then at the end, kind of round it out with longevity, meaning that, okay, you are well, you're at your ideal weight or the weight that's right for you. And then how do we just kind of do this for life so that it makes sense? And that's where I feel I'm at right now in my practice and a lot of other people that I've seen in my practice as well. Like once you're well, once you get to your ideal weight, it doesn't mean that you're cover model. We're not talking about that. We're talking about your ideal weight. But what do you do then for life? Like what works, just works through your lifestyle. So can't wait to share that with you, and let's just get right into it. So the first thing is, essentially, what is a cheat meal? Well, a cheat meal means that you're trying to get healthier, or you're trying to lose weight, whatever it might be, trying to be in a longevity-based program, and you're moving outside of your selected foods, like your healthy food list. So for a cheat meal, a lot of people would say it's something like pizza, or pasta, or it's alcohol, or it's any type of processed food. And so I want to explain what a processed food is. A processed food is essentially anything that comes in a box or a bag or is made out of flour, for the most part, right? Because we could come up with all sorts of different exceptions to that rule. Of course, we could do that. You could say like, oh, well, I have these oats. I'm not sensitive to oats. I'm not sensitive to the lectins. I'm not overweight. So I'm going to take these oats and I'm going to grind them down. I'm just going to make oat flour out of it. And then I'm going to turn that oat flour into a pancake that only contains like pastured eggs and maybe some like almond milk or coconut milk. Then that would be a definition. Is that a cheat meal or not? I don't know. Do you consider eggs, oats, and some coconut milk a cheat? And I would probably say no, not if you're not if you're not overweight, not if you're not unhealthy. So you can look at it in a few different ways. And that's where we're going to get into that gray area. But for the most part, what we're talking about is desserts, pastries, alcohol, anything that's going to spike that blood sugar to a significant degree through processed foods. And again, there are a lot of the comfort foods that we like it's the French fries, and it might be like a burger with the bun. And again, breads, pizzas, pastas, all of those things, all of the comfort foods, all of the things that we've done here in the West and kind of like then spread them all over the world, unfortunately. So that's what we're considering a cheat food, but I'm going to give you different alternatives to that. Now, what I also want to do is I know that a lot of people don't like the word cheat meal. They are offended by it, that this word brings up all sorts of different negative connotations. And I understand that. I always go back to those people and I just say, why are you so offended by a word? Simply, it's just a word. Like, what does that, obviously it's bringing you meaning, where to me, it just means like, oh, well, you're cheating on your healthy foods. Like, that's it. I've heard all sorts of different things, like a reward meal. I don't like reward meal. So for me, that's a negative connotation. Meaning a reward means, oh, I've been good on my diet. I've been good on my wellness plan. I've been good this week and I lost weight, so now I can have a cheat. I don't like that. That to me is an unhealthy relationship with food. Just like I spoke about and I've spoken about before in other seminars and interviews, we do not want to reward ourselves and we do not want to reward children with food. Oh, if you be a good boy or if you be a good girl, you're going to get dessert. That is not a good thing, because what happens now is we're training that young mind to say that food is a reward. And what happens is when they're 20, 25, whatever it might be, and they're having a down time, they want to reward themselves. Or they say, you know what, I'm going to show you, I'm going to eat this, this, and this. I don't need your permission. Like, it can be a really negative thing. And this is true, and you can look this up. This is true psychological-based eating behaviors that are set in at a young age. So, my wife and I aren't perfect. We try, but we always make sure to just say, oh, if you finish your dinner, you can have dessert. Or if you do this, you can have that. We just don't do desserts in our house. That is an occasion where we go out and we might decide to, have a dessert or whatever it might be, but we don't do it as a reward. And we don't do it if you finish all your dinner, because that's not the ideas that we're looking to get into. And now keep in mind, I grew up that way. Most of us grew up that way. If you do this, then you get the treat. If you do this, then you can have that food. And that is, a reward is not what we want. No, again, I've talked about this before. Alfie Kohn, great books. So many great books out there about on parenting and punished by rewards. Check out my previous Friday reviews on that. I do product reviews on Fridays. I do book reviews on Fridays. I do super nutrient of the week reviews on Friday. But check those out. You can just literally type in Alfie Kohn. Go to stephencabral.com/podcasts and type in KOHN. I apologize to Mr. Kohn if I'm misspelling his name, but the book is certainly called Punished by Rewards. And then he has another great book that I actually just reread. I think it's called Unconditional Parenting. I honestly can't remember, but you can look that up by going to stephencabral.com/podcast. Okay, so what I want to do though is I would love to hear what different names you have for a cheat meal. So I'll post this on Instagram today. Simply go to Instagram and look at my name, Stephen Cabral. And then I would love to hear a new name for cheat meal or a new name for reward meal, whatever it is. And I'll give a shout out to you on the next podcast if I decide to go with your name instead of cheat meal instead. So let's talk now. I have about, let's say, 8 items here that I want to go over with you, how to really enjoy your cheat meal the most, but also not let it set you back too far. So one of the things people always ask me, and we're going to get into this kind of 21-day program in just a moment, which is really, really important, that you have a focus time before you start doing these cheat meals. But they ask me, what if I don't want to cheat? Like, what if I'm feeling so good that if I do a cheat meal, I might start to slide backwards? We have a lot of people in our online support group, which of course is totally free. It's a Facebook group, but the URL link that links to that is cabralsupportgroup.com. You're welcome to join. We just look for positive people that are looking to get their questions answered, but are also looking to support others in the group. So, people ask, every time I do a cheat meal, I really get into a bad place and then I can't stop cheating for the next day or 2 days or 3 days. And it sends me into a vicious cycle. Is there anything that I can do to have this cheat meal so that I might be able to still enjoy something, but also, reset those leptin and ghrelin levels, meaning that a cheat meal is not more protein and it's not more fat. A cheat meal really is having more carbohydrates. Now, if you want to have what we call a healthy cheat meal, we call it a reloading meal. So this is something that when I was back in the day doing natural bodybuilding and just trying to build my body up and all those things, I would try to get lean, but then I didn't want to lose mass and I didn't want to lose energy and I didn't want to lose, essentially strength. And so what I would do once or twice a week, we would do a larger, what's called refeeding or reloading meal. And if you're any of those fitness competitors or bodybuilders maybe out there, any of that, we would do that. And what it would do is restore glycogen levels in the muscles to a very high degree. Of course, the liver would get its glycogen restored. And then after your liver glycogen is restored, it will go to your muscles. And then, of course, it will go to body fat if there's any additional. So what we would do is to kind of hack this system, as they say, once a week or maybe twice a week, we would do a very large carbohydrate-based meal, maybe 2 bowls of pasta. Or a big bowl of pasta. And that would be our refeeding or reloading meal. Or if we wanted to do it healthier, this would be in addition to other food as well at the meal. We would do maybe 2 or 3 sweet potatoes, or we would do a big bowl of oatmeal in addition to the regular meal, or a lot of rice. That would be healthier foods you could choose that would also reload and replenish the glycogen. Okay. So a healthier way to do a cheat meal, if you don't want to have the desserts and the alcohol and the pastries and the pizza, I think that's a Boston accent right there, and the bread, would be to simply have, like if you're doing low carb right now, but you want to restore the leptin and the ghrelin levels, that helps with the thyroid and all of that, is yes, once a week you could just have 2 sweet potatoes at a meal. You could do some baked yuca fries, some baked sweet potato fries. You could do a big bowl of fruit, before or after a workout. Like all of those would be totally fine for a higher carbohydrate meal. So that's a healthier way to cheat, by the way, if you don't want to have all of the processed comfort-based foods. All right, so that's the first one to get out of the way. People ask me all the time, it's kind of like, what's the best time of the day? What's the best day for a cheat? Honestly, it's a cheat meal. Like it's a day to have, not a day, and which brings me to my next point. It's a meal to go out and hopefully do it in a communal-based atmosphere. Like going out and buying like a big box of Oreos or something like that and eating them by yourself. Like totally fine to do if that's what you want for your cheat meal. But how much nicer would it be to go out, have a meal with your parents or siblings or friends or spouse or whoever, and then be able to like laugh and enjoy each other's company and just enjoy some of your favorite foods. Like maybe they're your favorite childhood foods. And a lot of us, like our brains are just programmed to eat these foods because they bring us back to a time of when like it was a fun meal or whatever it is, or a holiday. And so I want you to look at that is the best time is really when you're out with friends, in my opinion. It's more of a communal meal. I honestly believe it will affect you and hurt you less, like meaning your body in terms of glucose and toxins. And it talks about that in the Blue Zone diets, meaning that the Blue Zone communities are not always like perfectly healthy with their diet and they have some wine and things like that, but they're doing it in a communal-based atmosphere. They're not at home drinking on their couch. Like again, nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do once a week. I'm okay with that. You're an introvert and you kind of want to just be by yourself and enjoy some of your favorite foods and kind of snuggle up on the couch and watch a movie. Totally fine. But I want you to enjoy it. And so that leads to the next point. It's one meal. It's not a day. It's not 24 hours. It's a meal. It's one meal. All right. Now you can combine alcohol and carbohydrates. Like, yes, it's one meal of whatever it is that you would like. Okay. People ask me one more thing. Can I do a cheat meal the day before I do my detox? Kind of like a last meal before you do that detox. Okay. Yes, you can, but ideally not with alcohol. I spoke about this last week. I do hope you tuned in the last couple of weeks. On episode 837, so you can shoot that over at stephencabral.com/podcast and just type in 837. And that's the 20 do's and don'ts of detoxing. Check that out. And the week before, on episode 830, actually, it was on episode 823. So episode 823, the right way to complete a functional medicine detox. And then 837, the top 20 do's and don'ts of detoxing. Check that out because that will tell you much more about this. But here's the deal. Yes, you can do a cheat meal the day before you do your detox. That's okay. But ideally not alcohol. Why? Alcohol will really send you down to low blood sugar the next day when you start your detox. And a lot of times you blame that then on detox-based effects, but really your body's low blood sugar because you drank the night before. So ideally, if you're doing a detox on a Monday, Saturday night would be your cheat meal, not Sunday night. Okay. So, and again, you can apply that to any day of the week. If you're doing a Saturday, if that's when you're starting your functional medicine detox or Dr. Ball detox, you would do it on a Thursday night and then start on Saturday. So hopefully that helps. And again, the same goes with like a lot of dessert the night before. You might be low blood sugar. And again, if you want to just kind of fight through that and push through it, fine. But just know that the first day or two is just going to be more challenging for you. And it's okay, but you will be a little lower blood sugar and you might feel a little bit less energy. So something to keep in mind. All right, people ask me, I have food sensitivities. I did your IgG food sensitivity test, which is an at-home test that anyone can do right at home to find their hidden food sensitivities, because these are food reactions that happen a day or two later that create inflammation, brain fog, joint pain, skin rashes, migraines, etc. Can you still eat those for a cheat meal? So the ideal answer is this, that hopefully you've tuned into that podcast as well as how to eliminate your food sensitivities. Let's see if I can find that really quick. And if I can't, then we'll just type that into stephencabral.com/podcast. How to eliminate inflammation from food sensitivities, episode 809. I believe that's it. But basically what we do is we talk about on that show when you run your food sensitivity test that there are certain foods you should eliminate for 6 weeks, others for 12 weeks, and others for 6 months. So if you eat a food that you're highly sensitive to, which would be the one to eliminate for 6 months, because it was in the dark orange on your food sensitivity test, it got all the way up there, then that would not be ideal. Now, can you do it once a week as a cheat meal? Yes, but just keep in mind, it's going to cause quite a bit of inflammation. It's going to affect your immune system, and that may exacerbate any type of symptoms that you do have. So I would much prefer that you eat other foods that you enjoy, but maybe not the thing that you're most sensitive to, since you will have most likely a severe inflammatory immune reaction. Again, not life-threatening because we're talking about an IgG reaction, but nonetheless, still an inflammatory reaction. I would give yourself the 6 or 12 weeks off of that food before you reintroduce it, even for a cheat meal. Okay, with body transformation and weight loss, a lot of people say, every time I have a cheat meal, I gain like 2 to 3 pounds the next day. And I say, you know what? That's normal. You didn't necessarily add 2 to 3 pounds of body fat, but what you did was you created inflammation in your body. And that inflammation is causing you to retain more water. That's why I talk about this. On something like the Dr. Ball Detox, we have people lose 5 to 10 pounds in a week. Right? Granted, you need to lose at least 10 pounds in a week on your body to actually lose that much, but that's part of it. And I tell people you're not losing 10 pounds of body fat, but that doesn't mean that weight's going to come back on because your body was inflamed, and we're reducing inflammation and balancing those healthy inflammation levels by removing a lot of sensitivities, by detoxing the body, by helping to better remove toxins from the body, balance hormones, blood sugar, etc. So that's a big part of that. I'll actually be talking about that this Thursday. Let me see if I can find that right here. In my, I have a big spreadsheet, and all I do is write down the title for each show, and then I just kind of like let it flow from there. And that is, it's either going to be on tomorrow or Thursday's show, so stay tuned for that. But essentially what we're looking at is your body, when you eat a food that causes that IgG reaction, you end up gaining a little bit of water weight. I call it toxic water weight because it is toxic. It's from a food-based reaction, from a cheat-based food. So what happens is your body looks a little softer, it looks a little puffier, a little bit more swollen. Now that 2 to 3 pounds, 1 to 3 pounds, whatever it might be, will dissipate over the course of 2 to 3 days as well. So just make sure that if you do a cheat meal on Saturday night, expect that you might weigh more on Sunday. It's also why I've always told you that you should do a Monday and Friday weigh-in. So that means if your goal is weight loss, don't be so obsessed that you need to weigh yourself daily, okay? Because your body can fluctuate easily 2 to 3 pounds a day, easily, especially depending on the time of the day. And I've gone through this before in the past on Training Thursdays. So weigh yourself on a Monday and just make sure the same weight you were last Friday. And then by the time you get to the next Friday, do make sure you've lost new weight, right? Because if every Friday you weigh yourself and you always weigh the same, well, you didn't know what happened, right? And if you only weighed yourselves on Monday and you did a cheat meal every week, well, you might not see yourself going down. So what I look for is by Friday, you've not only lost the cheat meal weight, but you've also lost the new weight if your goal is body transformation. We do that in my practice. So that is an exact thing that we do at Stephen Cabral Studio, which is my body transformation practice in Boston. So that's what I recommend for that. Just understanding that you may gain a little bit of weight from that. So that's why some people get afraid of doing that and they don't want to do that. And then at the same time, I say, okay, no problem. Then just again, have that refeeding meal of healthy food, which might be, maybe you do a bowl of rice pasta. Maybe you do a couple of those sweet potatoes, whatever works for you. All right, people ask, I'm doing your Dr. Cabral Detox. I'm doing your Candida and Bacterial Overgrowth Protocol. I'm doing your new private wellness client sensitive gut guide, whatever it might be, okay? So can I do a cheat meal during those first 21 days? And the answer is no. And this is for whatever you do. So whatever program you're following, you really should get into it for 21 days. You must follow it for 21 days. And you really should be on point for that amount of time. And the reason is that you need that time to really rebalance healthy levels of blood sugar, hormones, toxicity in the body, and all the other, we call them just bioregulatory systems. So that means you need to give your body time without continually offending it. And offending it means putting in foods that are constantly spiking your blood sugar all over the place, that are constantly causing inflammation, immune-based reactions with food sensitivities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So give yourself 21 days. Really, just find 21 days. And then after that, you can do your cheat meal. And we'll talk about how many times a week just in a moment. So yes, please do 21 days of whether it's the Dr. Cabral Detox, the Candida and Bacterial Overgrowth Protocol. A lot of people ask, I did your 21-day detox and then went right into the Candida and Bacterial Overgrowth Protocol. Do I have to wait another 21 days? And the answer is no. You may, if you do a cheat meal right at the start of at the end, I should say, of the Dr. Cabral Detox, and then go right into the 21 days of the Candida and Bacterial Overgrowth Protocol. Totally fine. Or just do the Dr. Cabral Detox for the 21 days, if you want to do for the full 21 days. And then go right into the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol, and you can still do that one cheat meal per week. Another question I get all the time is I have an autoimmune condition or I have a very serious illness, and I'll let you just kind of insert whatever illness that may be. Can I do a cheat meal? So my recommendation is still exactly the same. Wait at least 21 days on whatever protocol you're doing, and then you may have a cheat meal, but make sure that it's not including one of the most offensive-based foods. So for example, if you have cancer and you're going through cancer-based therapy, would it be a good idea to drink alcohol? Absolutely not. I would not drink alcohol. If you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and we know that gluten is a huge offender for Hashimoto's as well as things like celiac, is it a good idea to have gluten? The answer would be no. Choose something different. So those are all things that recommendations we make. I always recommend that you get the body healthy first, or at least to a pretty good state of equilibrium, and then add in that cheat meal once a week. And then I'll talk about when you can do it more. So, how I really want to close this out is this, is that I'm not looking for you to place judgments on foods as good or bad. But I do want you to know that certain foods are inherently less healthy than others. Meaning like when you go out in nature and you see these beautiful pears and blueberries and raspberries and, mangoes, and then you have kale and you have Swiss chard, you look at those foods and those foods are meant to be eaten, right? Those are brightly colored, high antioxidant, high anti-cancer foods. We are meant to eat those and predominantly those. And then there are other foods that are okay to eat, but they should not be made up of as large a quantity as our produce, basically our fruits and veggies, okay? But then there's foods that are beyond that are just foods that we like, but essentially they're really man-made. Like when we eat, for example, pizza. Most people like pizza. Not everybody does, but most people do. You have salt, you have a little bit of the sweet, you have the fat with the cheese. So you're eating like this crusty bread, right? So it has gluten, it's processed wheat, it's processed flour. Then you have tomato sauce, which is essentially processed tomatoes. And then you're adding cheese on top. And for the most part, it's not the healthiest cheese in the world, right? And so when we look at that, and you have all the oils and everything that goes along with it, that's not a healthy, natural-based food, right? We've made that. But a lot of people find it delicious and they don't want to cut it out of their life. That's fine. We don't have to say, oh, this pizza's bad. We just say, this is a food that I know is not the healthiest for me, but I'm still going to enjoy it once a week. Like you can just do that and you don't have to pass as much judgment, because I believe we get into bad psychological parameters when we start to do that. So what I want you to do is essentially, as I spoke about in the beginning of the show, that anything is boxed or bagged or kind of comes like as a wheat-based flour or pastry or it's leaven or anything like that is going to be considered more of a processed, unhealthy food. Again, I always say there's exceptions. White and brown foods are the foods that are usually processed. But cauliflower is pretty healthy food. Oats can be a healthy food for a lot of people. So it's like, I know there's exceptions, but we always have to get some type of rule out there. Try to eat your brightly colored fruits and veggies. Like that should be the predominant part of the diet. You're doing pretty well. And the last thing I would say is like, sometimes life comes up, right? Sometimes life gets in the way and you end up having a cheat meal. You didn't plan on it. Don't beat yourself up about it. People ask me all the time, did I ruin the detox? Did I ruin the Candida and bacterial overgrowth? Did I ruin, protocol? Did I ruin this protocol? And the answer is no. You didn't ruin it. You're always doing better by doing it at all than not doing it at all, right? Like literally, my goal for you is to kind of buckle down with the 21-day Dr. Well detox or the Candida bacterial overgrowth protocol, the parasite protocol, whatever it is that you're doing, like to get your body balanced. It's whatever you want to do to get your body balanced. Now, if you're working with a naturopath right now or health practitioner, follow their plan for 21 days. Like follow it, then you can add in that cheat meal. And so what I would say is this, is that I believe once you get your body healthy, once you achieve a healthy weight, once you feel great, aging well, all of those things, that's when I believe that you can do great 9 out of 10 times. Meaning that 9 out of 10 meals. So essentially twice a week you could do a cheat meal. So you're doing great on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then Wednesday night you go out and, Wednesday you might have a cheat meal. And then you do great on Thursdays and Fridays, and then Saturday you have a cheat. Like, I think that's okay. I really do believe that once you're doing well, but your body will also tell you. Meaning if you start to gain weight with 2 cheat meals per week, well, you might be overdoing it at those cheat meals. There is such a thing. Or you're causing too much inflammation in the body. Like that, all of that's possible. And you start to slide backwards. Again, that's where the rain barrel effect really comes into play. It's like everybody has their own certain barrel, right? And it's how quickly are we filling it up? For some people, 2 cheat meals a week doesn't do it. For others, they can only do once a week. And you will find that out with your body. I've often found that it's during times of stress that you have to be a little bit tighter with your nutrition and with your sleep, right? That only makes sense because your body's stressed. It's pushing down hard on one side with the stress, and your job is to kind of lift back up with the other with great nutrition and rest and hatha yoga and meditation and acupuncture and like whatever it is that you want to do to kind of calm that nervous system. All of those work. So that is my philosophy. Start with 1 cheat meal per week. I really believe that most people are going to be able to handle that. It's also a great way to never say, I can't ever have that food again. It's a way to say, I'm going to still be able to enjoy some of my favorite foods that I never want to eliminate, but I'm just not going to eat them all the time. And when I do eat that food, I'm going to really try to chew slowly. I'm going to savor it. I'm going to enjoy it. And then I'm going to say, I'm done with it. I enjoyed that food, but now I'm going to go back to focusing on my healthy eating. You're not focusing on depriving yourself. You're focusing on how much more energy you feel, how much more alive you feel when you're eating a healthy, balanced diet full of brightly colored produce-containing foods. So hopefully this was helpful. I always wanted to do a show just on cheat meals. We got many, many requests, so happy to oblige. Thank you so much for tuning into today's Total Wellness Tuesday Cabral Concept. If this show is helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone else it may serve. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stephencabral.com/resources.